Poor Maid drives Millionaire's sports car into danger, but what she was saving made him cry in a world where titanium gleams and wealth builds walls. The truest value is often found in the quietest corners. This is the story of Silas Thorne, a man imprisoned by his own cold perfection, and Marta, the overlooked housekeeper who shattered his world to save the one fragile thing that mattered. It's a tale of a Lamborghini racing through hell, butterflies dancing on the edge of oblivion, and the moment a millionaire's heart cracked open not for the loss of a machine, but for the resurrection of a forgotten soul. Let us know where you are watching from and what time you found this video. For his whole life, Silas Thorne was a model of icy perfection. His residence on the cliffside, which he called Airy Point, was a shining example of titanium, glass, and uncompromising efficiency. Within the climate-controlled garage, his collection of hypercars shone with the same brilliance of medical equipment. In this antiseptic environment, Marta, his silent and perennially exhausted housekeeper, glided through it like a shadow, cleaning surfaces that Silas scarcely touched, and navigating his harsh requests and frigid indifference. Do not touch the automobiles. She was aware of the regulations. At any time. Later on, the storm arrived. Hurricane Cora released a biblical deluge, which was not simply rain, but a biblical flood. The winding coastal route at Airy Point was converted into a perilous chute of churning mud and debris. Rivers broke their banks, and trees became battering rams. All of these things occurred as a result of the storm. Power was lost. The phones went unanswered. Silas, who was ironically trapped within his castle because landslides had blocked off the private road, paced about like a panther that was confined in a cage in front of his panoramic windows that were slashed by rain. While Marta was finishing up the process of locking storm shutters in the servants' quarters, she was the first person to hear it. It was a frenzied, buzzing sound coming from the landline in Silas's study, which was seldom used. Against the established norm, she responded. Dr. Aris Thorne's residence. Over the static and roaring wind, a voice uttered a gasp that was barely audible. The Greenhouse Model 3, it's falling apart. They are the specimens of Atrophanura, the legacy left by Silas's wife. No way can we get there. This access road has been removed. In the event that they are buried or inundated, a crackling nothingness was created by the line's dissolution. Marta became completely numb. It is Dr. Aris Thorne, the mother of Silas, lepidopterist who was known all over the globe and passed away 5 years ago. Marta had a strong recollection of her. She was not a chilly titan of industry, but rather a lady with dirt under her nails and amazement in her eyes. She had sometimes showed Marta her sky jewels. Specimens of the Atrophanura were meticulously gathered and stored in a specialized, climate-controlled annex of Greenhouse 3, which was placed perilously farther down the cliff. The Atrophanura were not just butterflies. Rather, they were the rarest and most fragile subspecies that Aris had devoted her whole life to conserving. Although Silas had only inherited his father's financial acumen and his distaste for frivolity, he had hardly maintained it. This was a reluctant tribute to his mother's memory, which he neglected to acknowledge in public. However, Marta was aware of it. Marta had a debt that she bore in silence, and she knew that Aris had covertly paid the life-saving operation that Marta's own son had undergone many years before. She was aware that those specimens were physical manifestations of Aris's soul. Also, they were on the verge of being removed. As a result of the disturbance, Silas suddenly materialized at the doorway. "Who was that?" he shouted, adding a harsh tone to his voice. Marta stuttered. "The university lab, sir," as the magnitude of the approaching offense that she was about to commit dawned on her. "Your mother's collection of greenhouses, number 3. This is falling apart. They are unable to get there." It was not with sorrow that Silas's face hardened. Rather, it was with irritation. It is unfortunate. Sure, it is irreplaceable, but it is also just. Pests as well. Material loss has occurred. There is nothing that can be done about this. Putting the ghosts of his past out of his mind, he shifted his attention back to the window. Insects are used. Something fundamental inside Marta was sparked by the words. It was the combination of Arisa's generosity, the delicate beauty that she had adored, and Silas's icy disdain that culminated in a scary determination. There was no longer any access road. However, despite the fact that it was dangerous, the coastal roadway maintained the possibility of providing a hazardous route down to the greenhouse, level until the last landslide completely closed it. One may find a way, a method of suicide. Her gaze landed on the keys of Silas's most recent passion, the electric blue Lamborghini Revuelto, which were dangling from a peg. Not a machine designed for cataclysmic mudslides, but rather one intended for unfathomable speed. Without Silas having a chance to respond, Marta moved. Not in a state of panic, or rather with the grim efficiency of someone who has come up against more difficult decisions than death. Suddenly, she grabbed the keys. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thorne," she continued, her tone of voice betraying an unsettling calmness. "I have to try. I can't. Have you lost your mind?" And with a lunge, Silas screamed, "The value of that automobile is 10 times more than the value of your life. You are going to ruin it. Bring yourself back to this place." However, Marta was already seated in the driver's seat, and the low, predatory growl of the Lamborghini's V12 system could be heard emanating from the garage door. A wall of wind and water was revealed when the door opened with a whirry motion. The Revuelto rocketed into the whirlwind like a sapphire bullet fired into pandemonium, leaving behind a shower of pebbles that left a scar on the floor that had been perfectly clean. When Silas finally made it to the window, his anger transformed into a terrified disbelief as he saw his creation, which had cost him $2.5 million, disappear into the gray storm. She has taken it without permission. The clumsy and ungrateful creature from hell. As he scrambled about for a dead phone, he was completely helpless. As the strong lasers of the Lamborghini highlighted the fragment of asphalt that was crumbling, Marta's world shrunk to a smaller and smaller space. It seemed like gunshots as the rain pounded down on the carbon fiber roof. The mud poured over the windshield at a rate that was greater than the wiper's ability to remove it. When she was driving on the slippery, debris-strewn road, the vehicle, which was designed for racing grip, slithered and resisted her. She wasn't at the wheel. Rather, she was attempting to control a beast that had only just been tamed via Armageddon. During the collision, a tree limb that had fallen on the passenger door caused a layer of paint to rip. Muddy water rushed over the hood, posing a risk of suffocating the fire that was burning in the engine. Taking each turn seemed like taking a chance on oblivion, and the churning water was like a voracious mouth mere yards below. The entry point, which was a crumbling turnoff that was already half submerged, was reached by her. As soon as the engine was started, the Lamborghini executed a dramatic fishtailing maneuver down the steep and muddy track in the direction of the cluster of greenhouses. Greenhouse 3 was a misstep in every way. In the process of shearing away a portion of the cliff face, a corner of the building was also taken away. It poured rain through the huge hole, which soaked the inside of the building. Despite the fact that the annex that contained the specimens had miraculously remained undamaged, water was rapidly rising near the entrance that was shut. Marta slammed the Lamborghini through the broken wall of the greenhouse, causing the cabin to be flooded with glass and metal. As she leaped out into the freezing water, she ignored the ruckus that was going on around her. A broken pipe was used as a lever, and she used it to pry open the entrance to the annex. There were 12 clear containers that were sealed and stacked on high shelves within. Within them, hung in perfection, were the Atrophanura, which, with wings of impossible Toscal, dazzling black, etched with iridescent blue. And bigger than her palm were creatures of gossamer and starlight made concrete, a collection of diamonds from the heavens. It was like trying to handle soap bubbles during an earthquake. As we were gathering the cases, she placed them in a risky manner on the passenger seat of the Lamborghini. as well as the little cargo shelf that was located behind the seats. At a quicker rate, the water was rising. An ominous moan emanated from the building. One more case was still there, perched high on a shelf next to the area that was falling apart. She was working hard to get to it when suddenly a ray appeared from above. Just as a cascade of metal and glass fell upon the hood and windshield of the Lamborghini, Marta plunged back inside the vehicle, causing the carbon fiber to shatter and the glass to spiderweb. The motor stuttered but continued to run. She threw the vehicle into reverse and sped out of the disintegrating ruin, just as the annex roof collapsed with a resounding crash. She was able to escape the ruin in both directions. The trek back was much more difficult. The Lamborghini, which was damaged and leaking, struggled to go forward. Its once pristine sides were disfigured by mud and debris, and its windshield was a mosaic of broken pieces. Under the avalanches, the roadway was no longer visible. Marta drove with just a partial vision, relying on her instincts and her desperation. At the moment that she was finally able to slide back into the garage at Airy Point, the engine stopped with a last gasp that was unsettling. There is complete silence, with the only sounds being the pounding rain and Marta's labored breathing. As she staggered out of the room, she was drenched, bleeding from a gash on her forehead and with the priceless cases in her hands. With a furious expression on his face, Silas stood at the entryway of the home, framed by the doorway. The bent hood, the cracked windshield, and the deep gouges in the paint were all things that caught his attention as he moved closer, his eyes fixed on the wrecked Lamborghini. He screamed out in a shaky voice, You reckless, stupid fool." His voice was shaking with anger. He made a wildly gestural motion toward the broken equipment. "Are you even somewhat aware of what you've carried out? What a magnificent work of art, not to be replaced. In addition, you destroyed it for what?" For what? Marta did not show any signs of flinching. Simply put, she displayed the most prominent instance. An Atrophanora specimen shone brightly beneath the lights of the garage, well preserved and unaffected by the mayhem that had taken place inside. Its wings seemed to be pulsating with a brightness that was not of this planet, as if they were caught bits of a midnight galaxy that had been sprinkled with sapphire. As the storm raged around her, she said softly but clearly, "For your mother, Mr. Thorne." As she addressed him, in honor of Eris, it was her life's job. She is the diamonds of the sky. That was the only thing that she had completely abandoned. As Silas continued his rant, he choked to death. His gaze, which was fixed on the butterfly, fluttered slowly. No, not because of its monetary worth, but because of a memory that has been buried for a very long time. The hands of his mother, which were soft and soiled, were gently mounting a specimen that was comparable. She explained its voyage across countries in a voice that was gentle and filled with amazement, a spark that he hadn't seen in her eyes in years before she passed away. The way that her eyes lighted up. His eyes fell upon her in such frail and unattainable beauty. The part of himself that he had walled off with money and steel and scorn was revealed to him here and now. His eyes moved from the wrecked automobile, which represented his sterile and well-crafted environment, to the damaged maid who was clutching the essence of his mother's delicate and passionate soul from the inside out. The contrast was so stark that it was jarring. The fierce strain that had been rising in his shoulders vanished. The muscles in his jaw shook. He let out a sound of being strangled, and then another. However, it was not wrath that broke through the quiet. Rather, it was a raw, choking sob. As he gazed at the butterfly, hot and unexpected tears flowed down his cheeks. He then turned his attention to Marta, the lady who had disobeyed him and destroyed his treasured gift, not for the purpose of making a profit, but in order to rescue the one thing that his mother had given the world that was really precious. He did not see a hypercar that had been destroyed. He saw the offering of the sacrifice. After finally acknowledging the amount he owed to his mother, he saw the debt. Instead of seeing Marta as a member of staff, He regarded her as the keeper of a heritage that he had disdained. The billionaire collapsed, not to the polished pavement, but to his knees in the middle of the debris of his own personal fortress. He wept freely for the mother he had forgotten to grieve, and for the unfathomable bravery that he discovered in the most insignificant part of his sterile world. Outside, the storm was raging, but within the ruined garage, among the shattered pieces of metal and pride, something delicate and lovely had at long last made its way through.